All right, today I'd like to take a look at which countries are switching over their energy mix to use more renewable energy. So we're starting off in 1970 when no one had much of any renewable energy. And you can see that on the y-axis, we've got renewable energy as a percent of primary energy, and everyone is down at zero. I've highlighted a couple of bigger economies, China, United States, and some smaller ones as well, because they make interesting cases, Denmark and Norway. And I know that it's hard to see the labels right now, but they'll spread out as we go through the years. Now, I wanted to look at why some countries have used more renewable energy in recent years versus others. And so I looked at a couple of characteristics of these countries. Firstly, on the x-axis, you can see GDP per capita in constant US 2014 dollars. So you can see United States and Norway are high income countries. They're all the way out on the right end of the axis with even back in 1970, GDP per capita of, roughly 30, 40, 50,000, sorry, yes, thousand US dollars per capita. Also, I think it's important to consider, does a country have energy security? If they don't, they might be more inclined to turn to renewable energy. So yellow circles are net importers of oil and gas. They lack energy security. Blue are net exporters of oil and gas, and so they have very high level of energy security. Also, it's easier for smaller countries with lower overall energy demand to switch over their systems to renewable energy. So the smaller bubbles have smaller total primary energy demand, and you can see Norway, for example, is a small country, although very wealthy. They don't have a very large annual power primary energy demand. China, on the other hand, a very large economy, already has a very large circle, even in 1970. All right, so let's cycle through the 1970s here. You can see that really there's not much change along the y-axis, but some countries are beginning to really rise up in the ranks in terms of GDP per capita. China is moving right up that axis. Now, in the middle of the screen now, there's one small yellow circle that I haven't labeled. That's Philippines, and they've taken advantage of their geothermal resources starting in the early 1990s. And so at a very early stage, they've already risen to above 5% renewable energy as a percent of primary energy. All right. Moving forward to 2000. By 2000, Denmark has also risen in the ranks. This is the home of Vestas, a pioneer in wind energy, and they're making very good use of their wind energy at this point. And we'll see that they continue to rise. All right, now by 2007, you can see that between the United States and Denmark, there's a group of bubbles that started to pop up. This is mainly in Western Europe, and these are high-income countries with low energy security. These are also countries that are very intent on addressing climate change for the most part. So all of these factors have contributed to increased investment in renewable energy, which is bumping up renewable energy as a percent of primary energy during the 2000s. Also, starting in about this time frame, renewable energy, particularly wind and solar, is starting to get much cheaper in terms of the cost per kilowatt hour. So if you're a young, new, growing country and your power demand is increasing, you might look to switch over to renewable energy even if it's just because it's cost effective. And I think I would argue we can start to see this effects in 2013, 2014, 2015. Between China and the United States, there's a cohort of small bubbles that begins to pop up and actually rises above China and the United States in terms of the percent of renewable. And these are mainly in Eastern Europe and also a few in South America. And these are countries, again, they've got rapidly growing economies. They're middle income countries, so they can't necessarily splash out for very expensive new power plants, but a lot of renewable energy resources, at this point, the cost per kilowatt hour is almost competitive with traditional forms of power. And so these middle income countries are now increasingly turning to renewable energy as well. Um, One important factor I should note that China has been a really key driver of the lower cost per kilowatt hour of renewable energy. Um, a lot of manufacturing was set up in China for both solar and for wind, and they did drive down the manufacturing cost of the equipment. And as a result, the cost per kilowatt hour of renewable energy from wind or solar decreased very significantly during the roughly 2010 to 2015. So you can see that China bubble is also slowly rising. It's a very big economy, so it can rise that quickly, but China actually was the biggest market for wind during this period, much of this period, I should say, and also a very large market for solar as well. All right, so let's finish off here. Here we end at 2015. And you can see again, there's that big cohort of middle income countries, which has really made a lot of strong gains. And we'll expect to see that go even further in the next 5 years. Also, you can see that the blue circles, Norway, etc., they haven't really made much progress at all, with a few exceptions. And that's to be expected. They've got plentiful oil and gas to rely on. But as of the end of 2015, many of these countries have made significant commitments to limit their carbon emissions under COP21. And so I would expect to see that some of these countries, the blue-green countries, do begin to invest significantly in renewable energy over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, just to give you some housekeeping details, this was plotted in R. The data are from the World Bank in terms of GDP per capita, and also from BP's Statistical Review 2015. So you can go out and get these data and confirm that I'm not just making this stuff up. And that is it. Thanks for listening.